What's up, Panther Nation? It's your boy, Big Brother A. Happy Hump Day. All right, I'm coming back to you with a really good segment that I'm excited for. One that I'm going to repeat throughout the year. And I'm happy to start it off now. But the title is No Excuses. All right. So, the basis of this series is going to be players that have zero excuses for this upcoming season. All right, and we're going to monitor these players during training camp, during the preseason, and during the season. All right, I picked 3 players on offense, 3 players on defense, and there's no excuses for them this upcoming season. All right, zero excuses. All right, not that they're young, they're learning a new system. No, zero excuses. All right, and there's a known quote about excuses. Okay, the quote goes like this: "Excuses are tools of the incompetent, used to build monuments of nothingness. Those who specialize in using them seldom specialize in anything else but excuses." All right, let's focus on that. Let's focus on that. Now, let's go to the offense first. These 3 players on offense with zero excuses. All right, so first, let's start with the most important player at the most important position, Bryce Young, quarterback. All right, so I listed his PFF grade and where he ranked among his peers. And as you can see, Bryce Young had a grade of 64.7, and he ranked 37th out of 50. All right, so that's not good. All right, now last year we saw he had some games up and down. Okay, there's a lot of noticeable games where he played very bad, including the game against the Seahawks, game against the Bills, games against the Saints. Just some very bad games. All right, but he also had some good games. Good against the Falcons, good in the playoffs against the Rams, but still just a whole lot of up and down, which turned into average to below average quarterback. All right, we're gonna say below average because he's ranked 37th among his peers. All right, there's 32 teams. You do the math. Now, Bryce, what does he have to do this next upcoming season? And when I say no excuses, and I'm thinking about these players, this is not just what he needs to do to stay in the NFL. All right, I'm not worried about if he does bad or decent, and we let him go and he does. We don't care for the next team. No, no, no. I'm going off of what he needs to do to be a good quarterback, a great quarterback, great enough for us to keep him. All right, for us to be excited to keep him. All right, if he repeats last year, fans will not be. We could still re-sign him, but a lot of fans would be upset. All right, so in the gold, I listed a comp that we need to look at for Bryce Young that he needs to strive for us to re-sign him and solidify him as the Panthers quarterback. So the comp is 2024 Sam Darnold. And that's Sam Darnold's year with the Vikings. You know, he struggled with the Jets. His play was up and down, struggled with the Jets. He struggled with us, with the Panthers. And then he went to the Vikings, all right? And just like with Bryce, like I said, up and down play early on, but then he broke out, all right? So, 102.5 passer rating, right? 4,000 yards, 4,319 yards, 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Right? That's what Bryce needs to strive for. Okay. I was also looking at another quarterback, Jordan Love, 2023, his breakout year. But I settled on Sam Darnold because of his early struggles. And with Jordan Love, his breakout year was literally his breakout year when his first time named as full-time starter. Now, Bryce needs to show why he was picked the first overall. Okay, not just a good quarterback. He needs to show he has great quarterback potential. Right? If he's just decent, I don't want him on the team. I want us to look for another quarterback. All right, so comparing Bryce stats from this past season to 2024 Sam Darnold's, Bryce is going to have to add over 1,000 yards to his season. All right, and that means Bryce is going to have to pass the ball down the field a lot more. Okay, he's going to have to add. That's what. Let me do some math. Over 180 more yards per game. Yes, he's going to have to play and pass the ball a lot more than what we've been doing. All right. So that's not only are we going to have to pass, he's going to have to pass more. He's got to make some winning passes to get more touchdowns. All right. Bryce had 23 touchdowns last year. He's going to need to jump up in the 30s. And even though we're jumping up in the 30s, he needs to keep the turnovers around the same or less. His Bryce turnovers actually went down from 2024 to 2025. It needs to stay that amount or lower for this upcoming season. This is what we need. Okay, if Bryce goes for let's say 4,200 yards, 36 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, just off the stats, we would be real confident of Bryce at quarterback. 100-yard passer rating. Okay, Bryce hasn't had a grade over 64. All right, Sam Darnold's quarterback rating grade the past 2 seasons, and this is including his season with the Seahawks, is in the 80s. All right, Bryce needs to play and get his grade in the 80s. And Bryce has had a lot of excuses since he's been drafted to the Panthers. We've basically shifted a whole lot around Bryce to make him work. All right, we fired Frank Wright. We hired Dave Canales specifically to work with him. We pushed all of our money towards O-line. We drafted wide receiver first twice. We've drafted a wide receiver every year since Bryce has been in Carolina. All right, we put resources towards running back. We've put most of our resources towards offense. All right, because we want Bryce Young to work and to be successful. So no more excuses. All right, we've done that. This is year 4. We haven't seen the greatness or anything positive consistently to make us feel good about Bryce. And Bryce has a lot of fans. Bryce has a lot of people cheering for him that wants him to succeed. All right, Bryce might be the most well-liked quarterback since. There's only 2 quarterbacks I could think of that might have been more liked than Bryce. That's Tim Tebow and Andrew Luck. So Bryce, there's been a whole lot of excuses just for Bryce. We don't have the right system. He needs time. No more excuses. Now, next is Jonathan Brooks. Okay, Jonathan Brooks, we drafted in 2024, traded up to draft him at running back. Had a whole lot of potential from Texas, and he gets hurt. All right, well, he was hurt. He was hurt. We decided we're gonna take him anyway in the second round, and he gets hurt after sitting out, and then he tries to play last year and he tears his ACL, gets hurt again. So you know, he hasn't played in the past 2 seasons. All right, and he needs to show something. Okay, no more excuses. All right, and I understand he's been hurt twice. No more excuses. All right, we traded up for him. Uh, I don't know if we didn't do our medical research as well as we should have, or it's just freak accidents. But he needs to actually produce for offense. Now, does he specifically needs to produce and help? One, not only because we traded up and put some capital to get him in the second round, we let Rico Dowdle go. Right, Rico Dowdle was the engine to really push us back into winning position to end up getting a playoff spot last season. Right, if Rico Dowdle doesn't break off those 200-yard games, Bryce Young is probably off the team. Right, we're probably trading Bryce. Okay, we was around 1-5 around that time. Probably looking for a new quarterback and looking to potentially start things over under Dave Canales. So what would really help Bryce is a strong run game. Okay, Chuba is getting older, but he's a very good running back, and we also have a lot of faith in Chuba Hubbard. Okay, so Chuba's gonna be the starter. All right. We just need Jonathan Brooks to be a great backup that shows a lot of potential for him to start. Right? For him to start. So I want for him I picked a 2021 Javonte Williams as his production that we should expect from him. That's Javonte Williams' rookie year. It's there's no other running back who's been injured twice that I could find that stayed as a backup. I was looking at Deshaun Foster, our very own Panther Deshaun Foster. You know, he was hurt. Then he came on near the end of the season. But then I like this comp better because Deshaun Foster, as well as he did during that playoff series and a couple of times, he stayed hurt a lot. And he never eclipsed 1,000 yards after. But Javonte Williams, he did well his rookie year with the Broncos, 2021. Then he gets a really bad injury. Really bad, tears ACL, MCL, really bad injury. And his play doesn't recover until he ended up going to the Cowboys this past season. And then he breaks 1,000 yards. All right. And all I want from Jonathan Brooks is just production from Javonte Williams. All right, you're not going to get many carries. Are you not going to get all the carries? As I say, or most of the carries. I just need you to make the most of those carries. All right, maybe you could get more or earn more near the end of the season, but he needs to show potential, and I want him to peak at 900 yards, 800 yards. And also I want to show just a whole lot of potential in the pass game. Okay. Now, another running back I was looking at was 2011 Jonathan Stewart. Okay. That season, Jonathan Stewart broke the record for receiving yards for the Panthers with 413. And he had around 900 yards rushing. Okay. And that's the season I believe Cam comes in, um, and we run offense with the two tight end offense with him, with Shockey and Olsen. But we started to use Jonathan Stewart very well in the receiving game. And I want Jonathan Brooks to be a really good weapon in the receiving area, as well as a strong runner, right? Just that would be, I believe that would be extremely helpful for our team. So yeah, so just looking at 900 yards, 7 touchdowns, 300 receiving yards. I'll say just 1,000 yards total yards is what I'm expecting for Jonathan Brooks. And I want 300 of those yards receiving. So let's say he gets 770 and 300 yards receiving. I'll take that. That's all. That's all we need from Jonathan Brooks. And I want him to look good. So maybe over 4.3 yards rushing each rush. Let's just get that. But he needs to show something, all right? Because if not, we got Trevor Etienne. Okay, we can slot him at number 2. So, I feel like there's no excuses. Okay, I don't want to hear he's hurt or he's rusty. He needs to come out strong and fast. All right. Or it's just sunk costs. It's like, hey, we wasted our second rounder. A lot of people did not like that pick, including me. All right, especially me. I did not like that pick of Jonathan Brooks. Okay, I believe I wanted a center. I can't remember if that's the center, Zach Frazier, that went to Steelers or not. I wanted something on the O-line. That was really a luxury pick because Chuba, I believe we had just gave him a contract extension that year. So extreme luxury position pick at running back, which is a very devalued position. And why did we make the pick? Who knows? But there's something we saw really with Jonathan Brooks, and he has yet to show it yet. So no excuses. He got to do it this year, early on too. Preseason, first maybe 2 games. He has to show something. Or he's off the team. Last, not surprising, Xavier Legette. Xavier Legette has to be more than just a complimentary wide receiver. If he's just, I've seen they mention he should just become like a gadget player, 4th round, just a decent gadget player. If he's that, he's not going to stick with the team. We're going to let him go. Okay, we invested a 1st rounder in Xavier Legette. And even though, no matter how affable his accent is, he's going to be off the team unless he produces a lot. Now, what is a lot? I think Xavier Legette has to ball out this season. Ball out like, basically put wide receiver 1 numbers out to stay with the team. For us to want to keep him with the team. Now, that's going to be extremely hard for Xavier Legette because it seems like we're looking at T-Mac at starter and Jalen Coker as number 2. All right, and we drafted Chris Brazil. All right, his strength is the same as Xavier Legette's strengths. So he's just in college was a more polished wide receiver. So in what area can Xavier Legette help? And for his if he wants to stick with this team, he needs to put up a season like Nico Collins, 2023 Nico Collins. Now, this is a wide receiver. He didn't do much his first 2 years with the Texans. Here comes C.J. Stroud, and then he has a breakout year. Okay, 80 catches, 297 yards, and 8 touchdowns. All right, so he did well as a deep threat wide receiver, and he was really well after the catch. He really well with breaking tackles. So that's where Xavier Leggett is going to have to come in. I like that comp because Xavier Leggett hasn't done much. He done similar production his first couple seasons, and he needs to break out this way. All right, he can't put up another 300, 400 yard season. All right, if he puts that up this season, he's off the team. All right, we're gonna trade him. We're gonna get rid of him. All right, we might get rid of Xavier Leggett before the season starts. All right, like I said, Chris Brazil, his strength is the same as Nico Collins and Xavier Leggett, deep threat, wide receiver, build up speed. Now Xavier Leggett has something else going for him. It's size, just really compact. So that could lead him to be a better run after the catch and break tackle wide receiver. Now, he has not shown it. He has not shown to be reliable. It seemed like his connection with Bryce is very bad. But he needs to show that. And he needs to do that. His production needs to sort of match T-Max. All right? If he can put out this and T-Max put out 1,000 yards himself, similar amount of touchdowns, that's a great season. But he needs to put that out and basically leapfrog Jalen Coker. He's going to have to leapfrog Jalen Coker and break out. Okay? Now, another thing, Xavier Leggett is an older prospect. So he's 26 now? So he needs to break out. If he don't break out, then, this actually could be his last chance. Crazy to think. But, he ranked 117th out of 127 wide receivers. That's how bad he was last year. His footwork seemed very sloppy. His hands did get better. So he had less drops, but it seemed like his footwork was just not good. And just that in a combination with Bryce not trusting him. So his connection with Bryce was bad. He just did not do anything last year. Okay, he can't be 117th to stick with us. We need him to break out in the worst way. He need to be a top 20 wide receiver. Stick with us. If T-Max breaks out with that, with more of that production, then we're going to get rid of Xavier Leggett. We sunk a first rounder in him, and he has not produced. Okay, he's not going to stick with the team just because. We're not going to pay him just to be wide receiver number 4 or 5. But he has no excuses. Okay, we love the accent. We love the country mannerisms, the country talk. All of that's old now, right? That was old. To me, that got old like after the first month. Okay, I want you to remember a guy on Monty Edwards that we drafted, and he came out and somebody told him we drafted him to sell tickets. Okay, we had no intention of playing him. He was learning to be wide receiver, but definitely we had no intention of playing him at quarterback, which is what he was expecting. No. In Xavier Leggett, that might have been just a local pick. Hey, this is a local guy, country, funny. And, I give him credit at least for, milking that for as long as he has, but that's old now, man. I want to hear about him eating some coon and eating whatever wildlife is out in the Carolinas. I want to hear how he's going to help us being at the Z wide receiver position. Is he finally going to take that spot? Is he going to show? Did drafting Chris Brazil light a fire on them? Show us why you're a first rounder. There's no excuses. No excuses. And these three guys, they all three could be off the team next year. And that's why I say no excuses. All three of these players could be off the team next year. And they have to show something early. Okay? We've built our team on offense. They have to show something early. But, I highlight especially Bryce and Jonathan Brooks. Okay? Right? We need those two to really produce for our offense to become a top 10 offense. And that's what we should expect. Okay? That's what we should expect a top 10 offense. And we need Jonathan Brooks to replace Rico Dotto's, not necessarily his production, but his energy, his ability. Hey, we need a running back with that type of ability. We need Bryce Young to make that leap to a top 10 quarterback. That's the only way he's going to do it. That's the only way they're going to do it. They're going to have to replicate these stats. Okay, so let's go to defense. All right, let's go to defense. Now, on defense, let's start with a player I actually really do not like. Okay, I really do not like Trevor Wallace as a starter. Okay, based on PFF's system, linebacker was our weakest spot last year. Inside linebacker. We had Trevor Wallace and Roseboom. Both did not play well. Okay, and Trevor Wallace, I know early on there was this confusion about communication, who should be leading that, and then he got hurt. Now Trevor Wallace is just one of those guys that you could tell Vero really pushed for him, and he's one of Vero's guys. Okay, one of these guys he thought he could mold and put, build up. We were really just looking at his RAS score, rather athletic score. Extremely athletic. And he was a luxury pick. Okay? This is another luxury pick that we, for whatever reason, decided to make on a struggling team. Now, so last year he ranked 55th out of 84. All right? 55th out of 84. Grade of 55, which is not good. Okay? And what we need him to do, okay, because we signed Devin Lloyd to be like our main starting linebacker. So he's a complimentary linebacker. We just need him to be effective. Okay, so I put his comp of what we should look for as Devin Bush, 2024 Devin Bush. Now Devin Bush was drafted, I believe, by the Seahawks, and he was basically a bust for him. They got rid of him. Then he went to the Browns. Okay, he went to the Browns as a depth player, and then he suddenly got some time to start. So he started 10 games out of those 16 games, and he ended up playing pretty well. All right. So that's all we need Trevor Wallace to do. I didn't pick Devin Bush's 2025 season because I feel like for Trevor Wallace to break out like that, he would have to be the main linebacker, and that's more so what I'm expecting from Devin Lloyd. So I think 2024 is more realistic. Devin Bush still had a very high ranking, and I think that's more attainable than the close to 90 grade that he got this past season. So it was in 2024 he had 76 tackles, 2 sacks, about a 79 PFF defensive grade. With Wallace, we probably expect a little bit more tackles, but still the same production, the same grade. And he really needs to help in the coverage area. All right, he needs to be the coverage area. We're going to be, blitzing Devin Lloyd and having him more in the box, and he's still offering great ability and coverage. Trevor Wallace needs to utilize that athleticism in coverage and allow us to become a allow Devin Lloyd to do more of his thing in the box. Now, like I said, Trevor Wallace has not been able to do that so far. Okay, but this is what we're gonna need of him. If he's, since we did not draft somebody to replace him, a lot of fans wanted Jacob Rodriguez. He was Luke Kuechly's favorite linebacker. I wanted Jacob Rodriguez, but he went way earlier than I thought. We need, we got Jackson Kuwatch in the 7th. We need someone to replace him. Someone to since you didn't get replaced, we need you to play to this level, right? And like I said, I personally do not like Trevor Wallace as middle linebacker. I think he's just one of those guys like DJ Johnson, can't remember. Look, we had at least 2 other linebackers that were just athletic, not really football players, and they did not last. The Panthers are in the league, and I think Trevor Wallace is that same type of player. But he could prove me wrong and show this type of ability. So we need him to play this well. All right. Next, it might be a little surprise on the list. J.C. Horn. All right. J.C. Horn played a pretty average near the end of the season. So J.C. Horn, he's our number 1 corner. Mike Jackson actually rated really well with PFF, and it actually showed in his play. He held it down as number 2 corner spot. And J.C. Horn, I think he got a little lax. And also, PFF grades missed tackling very harsh. And J.C. Horn, surprisingly, is a bad tackler. Surprisingly, very bad tackler. Usually, the bigger corners, or more fit corners, are pretty solid tacklers. He's pretty bad tackler. So, he ranks 65th out of 110. Now, for him to take our defense to elite level, we're paying him as elite corner, he needs to replicate his draft mate 2024 Pat Surtain's play. Now that play is what got Pat Surtain Defensive Player of the Year. Okay, so stats are sort of hard to show. 4 interceptions, 1 for a 100-yard pick six, 45 tackles, had an 85 PFF cover grade, but that helped the team be the Denver Broncos team be a top 3 defense that season. Pat Surtain, he held it down. He held a lot of top wide receivers to extremely low to 0 yards. Okay, J.C. Horn has to go up to that level. I don't think J.C. Horn has reached that level yet. He's been very, very good, great even, okay, but not elite. And we've paid him as an elite corner because we didn't want to leave when we drafted him. But he has not had that elite season yet. Right? We need him to be this type of player, elite corner. Right? And the stats could be all over, but we'll know from the coverage grade, he needs to be elite. Okay, J.C. Horn, his coverage grade is pretty good. I believe in the high 70s. We need him to get that up to the 80s and definitely shore up his run defense. We need his run defense to move up in the 80s as well. Okay, I believe Pat Surtain hasn't had either drop below 80 since he got in the league. And we drafted J.C. Horn over Pat Surtain. Right? So, I look at it as a mistake, to be honest. I look at it as a mistake. Matt Rule made the pick. He was just looking at J.C. Horn's relative athletic score compared to Pat Surtain's. I liked Pat Surtain a little more. But I did like J.C. Horn a lot too. So with him, he's sad to say he's showing that Pat Surtain would have probably been the better pick. But he still has time to show, hey, it's more 1A, 1B rather than I'm a step below Pat Surtain. And what he needs to do is have that elite season. No excuses. Okay? JC Horn had too many bad games last year. Like tripping, seemed like it just seemed like he naturally struggles against the Saints for some reason. That needs to be rectified. He needs to take the defense to the next level. And finally, I want to go over Nick Scott. I'm also not a fan of Nick Scott. He ranks 55th out of 95 safeties. Had a pretty actually okay grade, higher than probably many people thought, 62.6. I do not want Nick Scott to be free safety. Okay, now but this is another one of Avero's guys, so he probably would be slotted as a starter. Now we did draft Zachy Wheatley, which is probably our steal of the draft in the 5th round. We do have Lathan Ransom, even though he might be more of a strong safety. We have some safeties, but I'm not sure they're going to be able to beat out Nick Scott. And because of that, all I want Nick Scott to do is repeat last year. Last year was his breakout year. He's been in the league maybe 8 or 9 years. He just needs to repeat that. Okay, I'm not going to expect much more from him. I'm expecting someone to beat him out at safety. But if he's still there, that's all I want to do. Repeat last year. Okay, he's never scored higher than 68 for a PFF grade. Okay, so he's not going to become a great safety. Okay, this is just what he is. He's been scoring the same since he's been in the league. So that's all I want for him. Just repeat last year. Play decent. And, below average in certain areas, but just be, decent. And hopefully we have a safety that can beat him out. But no excuses. No excuses. He got to at least be decent because, we signed him back. He was trying to hold out for more money, but he didn't. We're starting you over better players just because of Vero. More athletic players, let me say that. More athletic player safeties. No excuses. If you're going to do that, you're going to have to at least repeat last year. I think a Vero would find that decent. Me, I expect more from the free safety. So, no. But yeah, man, that's it, man. These are guys I'm gonna be watching throughout the season. These 3 on offense and 3 on defense. So, you tell me what you think. Do you think these the guys that should be really eyed on and no excuses? They have to succeed or else. I think all of these need to be looked at. With defense, we'll see throughout the season. But, yeah, these guys, no excuses. Okay? I don't want to hear any excuses. I want to see if they can't play. Even if JC Horn can't get to that elite level, we need to trade him. We need to get some picks back and trade him. But, that's questionable. We'll see. But we'll discuss that more. Okay, I'm out. This is your boy Big Brother A. Please like and subscribe. And I'll be talking to you guys later.